Islam claims that the Kaaba at Mecca existed since the time of Abraham. No proof supports this claim, since there is not one inscription or archaeological discovery older than the 3rd century AD at the Meccan location. Mecca apparently was uninhabited during ancient times. In the 2nd century AD, a dam was breached in Marib, a city in Yemen, forcing the Khuzā tribe to migrate from there to the location where they later founded Mecca. Because no temple existed there, the Khuzā tribe erected a tent in which to worship. In the same location, the Kaaba was later built. In the 4th century, they started to build the city of Mecca. King of Yemen, Abu Karb Asad, or Tuba, came to Mecca in the 5th century. He built the Kaaba similar to a Kaaba found in Yemen. Tuba ordered a mir from Asad to complete the interior of the Kaaba. Abu Karb Asad covered the Kaaba with a curtain, or kiswa, which was the second most important step after building the temple itself. Muhammad tried to identify Abraham with Mecca and the Kaaba in order to gain respect for Islam. In Quran 2, verse 127, he said that Abraham and Ishmael built the Kaaba at Mecca. Up to Muhammad's time, Mecca had never been recorded in any ancient history. The following prominent Roman and Greek geographers and historians visited and explored the Arabian Peninsula, yet they never mentioned Mecca or the Kaaba even once. Herodotus, 450–420 BC, wrote about Arabian cities. Theophrastus, 4th century BC, wrote about Sabian, Arabian, and Yemeni societies. Eratosthenes, 3rd century BC, wrote about locations along the Arabian side of the Red Sea and about Arabian societies. Agatharchides, 2nd BC, wrote about Arabian cities and temples along the Red Sea. Strabo, 1st century BC, wrote about Arabian tribes and cities in central and western Arabia and about locations along the Red Sea. Pliny the Elder, 1st century BC, wrote about 92 regions, cities, and tribes of Arabia, but did not mention Mecca. Ptolemy, 1st century AD, listed all the cities and regions of Arabia, but did not mention Mecca. Muslims claim that the city of Makaraba, mentioned in Ptolemy's geography, was actually Mecca. But Makaraba could not be Mecca, since Ptolemy wrote that Makaraba was the 6th city south of Yathrib and further south than Karna, the capital city of Ma'in, a kingdom in Yemen. No trace of pre-Islamic Mecca can be found, neither in archaeology nor in inscriptions, scrolls, and reliefs from the ancient empires that conquered Arabia. The Roman Empire attacked western Arabia along the Red Sea in 23 BC. The Assyrian Empire conquered northern Arabia in the 8th and 7th centuries BC. The Babylonian Empire conquered the Hejaz under King Nabonidus 556–539 BC. The Persian Empire conquered northern Arabia during the Achaemenid era, 6th century BC. No ancient city or country in Middle East failed to leave remnants of inscriptions, buildings, or archaeological objects. For instance, remnants of Dedan, northern Arabia, the 9th century BC. Remnants of Khaybar, western Arabia, in the 8th century BC. And then remnants of Tema, northern Arabia, 1st century BC. Stone carving from an ancient palace at Shabwa, the capital city of Hadramaut, Yemen, southern Arabia, 8th century BC through the 3rd century AD. Ancient Khaybar Dam. Palace of Petra, carved out of solid rock by the Nabateans, Jordan, 2nd century BC. All ancient countries and cities left many inscriptions, monuments, buildings, and their names were mentioned in other countries' inscriptions as well. There is no archaeological findings in Mecca from before the 4th century AD. This indicates that Mecca did not exist in the time of Abraham and Ishmael, nor even in the early Christian era. Seal of Dilmun Kingdom, Eastern Arabia, 3rd century BC. Inscriptions of the Sabaeans, 1st century BC. Remnants of the Dilmun Kingdom, 3rd century BC. Ancient fort of Mahrib, Ma'in Kingdom, Yemen, 1st century BC. Inscription of the Magan Kingdom, southeastern Arabia, 3rd to 2nd century BC. Mahram Bilqis Temple, Mahrib, 1st century BC. Remnants of ancient Kingdom Magan, southeastern Arabia, 3rd to 2nd BC. Ancient Dam of Mahrib, Ma'in Kingdom, Yemen, 1st century BC. The prophet Moses explains, if the city of Mecca and the Kaaba existed since Abraham's era, it would be impossible for a city inhabited for over 2,000 years not to leave a single trace. Archaeological findings from the ancient Middle East are abundant since the area is so arid. Nature does not destroy historical monuments or objects as quickly as elsewhere. Thus, an examination by Muslims of the purported historical information in the Quran is long overdue. In the Torah, I mentioned many tribes, cities, and countries of the Middle East, and I surely would have mentioned Mecca and the Kaaba if Abraham had been there. Since there was no city anywhere near Mecca in ancient times, that area was uninhabited. Camels need to drink at least every 100 miles. Without any city within 100 miles of Mecca, it is not likely that Mecca was a caravan stop until a century or two before Islam. Abraham never stepped foot in Mecca. The Bible explains that Abraham lived last in Hebron, the main city in southern Canaan, until he died and was buried in the cave of Machpelah, Genesis 25, verse 9, near Hebron, 1,000 miles from Mecca. Abraham said, I came from Ur, a major city in Mesopotamia, and I stayed last in Hebron in southern Canaan. I and my family went to Egypt only to avoid a famine in Canaan, Genesis 12, verses 10 through 20. And then we returned to Hebron. If I had built Mecca in the 19th century BC, that would make me the first builder of any city in Arabia. If this were true, such a great achievement would have become family lore and would have been recorded by Moses in the Torah. Ishmael said, but the Torah never mentions it. All the prophets of the Old Testament never said anything about it as well. Hagar said,
after Abraham ordered me and Ishmael to leave, we drank from a well at Beersheba, Genesis 21, verses 14 through 21, not from the Zamzam well at Mecca, which is 1,000 miles south of Beersheba. It would take months to walk from Hebron to Mecca, and it would be impossible for us to cross the desert.
It was not possible for us to carry enough water to walk 1,000 miles. Moreover, Muhammad's grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, only dug the Zamzam well in the 7th century AD, well over 2 millennia after my father's era. I continuously stayed in the Paran Desert, Genesis 21, verse 21, near Hebron, south of Canaan. When my father passed away, I immediately attended his funeral at Machpelah Cave near Hebron, Genesis 25, verse 9. I couldn't do that if I lived in Mecca, 1,000 miles away from Hebron. Hebrew tradition and the weather conditions of Canaan obligated the family to bury Abraham's body the same day he died. I am not of Arab descent. Genesis 25, verses 12 through 18. The tribes descended from me still live in Canaan and Sinai until the 10th century BC. Then they dispersed, and there's no record of them after the 7th century BC. Without doubt, any genealogy connecting Muhammad to me is contrived. In the 5th century AD, Bacile ibn Kilab, eighth in the line of descent to Muhammad, gathered allies from various Yemen families and established the Quraysh tribe, which is Muhammad's tribe. This tribe migrated to Mecca in the 5th century. Mecca had already been built by the Khuzā tribe in the 4th century.
Let's go to Mecca.
Muhammad denied being the descendant of Abraham or Ishmael.
I only know 17 generations of ancestors, that is, up to Al-Datar bin Kanana. Anyone who says more than that or adds further to that must be lying.
Ibn Ishaq listed 40 generations between Ishmael and Muhammad. Apparently, he didn't realize that 40 generations were not enough to cover the 2,600-year span.